Mossel Bay is a harbour town of about 130,000 people on the southern Cape of South Africa. It is an important tourism and farming region of the Western Cape Province. Mossel Bay lies 400 kilometres east of the country's seat of parliament, Cape Town, and 400 kilometres west of Port Elizabeth, the largest city in the Eastern Cape Province. The older parts of the town occupy the north-facing side of the Cape St Blaize Peninsula, whilst the newer suburbs straddle the peninsula and have spread eastwards along the sandy shore of the bay. The town's economy relied heavily on farming, fishing and its commercial harbour, until the 1969 discovery of natural offshore gas fields led to the development of the gas-to-liquids refinery operated by Petrosa. Tourism is another driver of Mossel Bay's economy. History. Although it is today best known as the place at which the first Europeans landed on South African soil, Mossel Bay's human history can, as local archaeological deposits have revealed, be traced back more than 164,000 years. The modern history of Mossel Bay began on the 3rd of February 1488, when the Portuguese explorer Bartolomeu Dias landed with his men at a point close to the site of the modern-day Dias Museum complex. Here they found a spring from which to replenish the water supplies. Dias had been appointed to search for a trading route to India by King John II of Portugal, and, without realizing it, actually rounded the Cape of Good Hope before landing at Mossel Bay, which he named Angra dos Vaqueiros. Dias is also credited with having given the cape the name Cabo das Tormentas, although King John II later changed this to Cabo da Boa Esperança. Dias' excursion ashore ended hastily when the local people chased him off in a hail of stones. By the time the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama reached the area in 1497, the bay had been marked on the maps as Aguada de Sabras. Da Gama bartered successfully for cattle with the local Khoi people in what is generally regarded as the first commercial transaction between Europeans and the indigenous people of South Africa. In 1501, another Portuguese navigator, Pedro de Tide, sought shelter in Mossel Bay after losing much of his fleet in a storm. He left an account of the disaster hidden in an old shoe which he suspended from a milkwood tree near the spring from which Dias had drawn his water. The report was found by the explorer to whom it was addressed, João Darnova, and the tree served as a kind post office for decades thereafter. João Darnova erected a small shrine near the post office tree, and although no traces of it remain, it is considered the first place of Christian worship in South Africa. The origin of the name Mossel Bay has to do with the ascendancy of the Dutch shipping merchants in the late 16th and the early 17th centuries. In one account, the explorer Cornelis de Houtman named the place Mossel Bay when he stopped there in 1595, whilst in another, the Dutch admiral Paulus van Carden named it when he came ashore on the 8th of July 1601. Whatever the case, though, the mussels and oysters on the shore would have been a welcome addition to the limited diet on which ships' crews were expected to survive in those days. Although the Dutch governor of the Cape Colony, Jan de la Fontaine, visited Mossel Bay and erected a possession stone here in 1734, the first permanent European building, a fortress-like granary, was built only in 1787. In July of the following year, the first shipment of wheat grown in the area was shipped from the bay. Although a British force had invaded the Cape in 1806, and Britain had taken permanent possession of the colony in 1814, the Mossel Bay area retained its Dutch given name until its declaration as a magistracy in 1848, when it was renamed Aliwal South, after the Battle of Aliwal in India, where the then governor of the British-held Cape Colony, Harry Smith, had won victory over the Sikhs on the 8th of January 1846. The name Aliwal South never stuck, however, even when the town was officially proclaimed in 1848, and when it became a municipality in 1852. For the earliest days of the Dutch settlers, Mossel Bay acted as the major port serving the southern Cape region and its hinterland, the arid Klein Karoo, and during the ostrich feather boom of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, more than 800,000 kilograms of feathers were exported through the port every year, which may have been the impetus that led to the construction of the first breakwater in 1912. Fishing and farming remained the main activities of the area during the early years of the 20th century, and the growth of the port reflected this. The discovery of natural gas fields offshore in 1969, of the FA gas field in the Bredasdorp Basin in 1980, and of the nearby M field in 1983, led to the development of the Mosgas gas to liquids refinery. This changed the nature of the port so that its major business now comes from serving supply ships for Petros's offshore platforms, and from export via its offshore single-point mooring, which is located in about 21 meters of water in an unsheltered roadstead at Voorby, in the lee of the St Blaize Peninsula. The development of the refinery led to a marked increase in property development in Mossel Bay, with the number of houses growing rapidly to accommodate the workforce during the construction period. Many of the people who came to work on the project remained in the town after commissioning, and it would appear from the changing economy of the town that they found work in tourism, light industry or commerce. Whilst the port and the refinery have, of course, had a major influence on the development of Mossel Bay, they have always worked in tandem with the growth of tourism and general commerce so that the town now boasts a balanced and vibrant economy. Tourism in particular has influenced much of the growth since 1994, although the town has been a popular resort destination for South Africans since as early as the late 1800s. The Afrikaans, taal en kultuurvereniging bought the farm Hartenbosch, east of what was then the town of Mossel Bay, in 1936, and developed it as a holiday resort. This was a significant step in the development of the town's tourism economy as it positioned Mossel Bay as a beach holiday destination, and beach tourism remains a major focus for incoming tourism in the 21st century. South Africa installed its first democratically elected government in 1994, which brought about sweeping changes in the structure of local government throughout the country, one of the results of which was that Mossel Bay merged with the smaller, neighbouring villages of Freemasheim, Great Brack River and Herbertsdale to form the present-day municipality of Mossel Bay in December 2000. Geography. Climate. Mossel Bay's climate is mild throughout the year as the town is situated in the area where the winter rainfall and all-year rainfall regions of the Western Cape Province meet. Its weather is influenced by the Agulhas Current of the Indian Ocean to the south and by the presence of the Outeniqua Mountains to the north. Mossel Bay receives 80% of its rainfall at night. Frost is rare or almost absent, and snow has never been recorded on the coastal platform. Snow does, however, occasionally fall on the mountain peaks and can be seen from the town on rare occasions. Prevailing winds are westerly in winter and easterly in summer, and rarely reach storm or gale force strength. The average days of sunshine of 320 days per year. Topography. Mossel Bay straddles the Cape St Blaize Peninsula and spreads out along the sandy shores of the Indian Ocean, eastwards towards the town of George. The Outeniqua Mountains, which form part of the Cape Fold Belt, lie to the north of the municipal area. These mountains of sandstone and shale are characterized by gentle slopes to the seaward side, and rise to a height of 1,578 meters at Craddock Peak, near George, and 1,675 meters at Formosa Peak near Plettenberg Bay. To the east, the land slopes slopes upwards towards the wave-cut platform that characterizes the more lush all-year-round rainfall area of the garden route. Here the land is mostly covered by grass and farmlands. The deep sandy soils of the western portion of the municipal area also give way to grass and farmlands, with large stands of typically dry fynbos which are characterized by, amongst others, the aloe-ferrex from which skincare products are made locally, and the chondropetalum tectorum which is used for the roofing of traditional Cape Dutch buildings. The municipal area's boundaries of the Goerits River in the west, the Outeniqua Mountains to the north, the Margate River in the east, and the Indian Ocean to the south. Demography. According to the 2011 census, the population of Mossel Bay is 59,031 people. Of this population, 40.9% describe themselves as colored, 40.1% as Black African, and 17.6% as white. 57.4% spoke Afrikaans as the first language, 30.7% spoke Xhosa, and 6.9% spoke English. Economy. Tourism. Mossel Bay has a strong tourism economy. The summer holiday season is the busiest time of the year, and, in December 2010, the municipality estimated that the town provided accommodation for between 50,000 and 60,000 holidaymakers per night during this period. Natural gas and oil. The Petrosa refinery, which was commissioned as Moscas in 1987, is situated about 13 kilometers to the west of the town's central business district. This is one of the world's largest gas-to-liquids refineries, and has always been a leader in the challenge of commercializing the GTL processes. It produces 36,000 barrels per day, a crude oil equivalent of 45,000 barrels, d, using the Fischer-Tropsch process of converting natural gas. Mossel Bay's GTL plant serves up to 15% of South Africa's transport fuels requirements. It produces unleaded gasoline, ultra-low sulfur diesel, kerosene, low aromatic distillates, drilling fluids, liquid petroleum gas, low sulfur fuel oil, anhydrous alcohols, liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and waxes. Transport. Road transport. Mossel Bay straddles the N2 National Highway, which is South Africa's main coastal road from Cape Town in the Western Cape Province to Durban in KwaZulu-Natal Province. The municipality of Mossel Bay maintains 417 9 kilometers of paved and concreted roads, and 24 kilometers of gravel roads. Mossel Bay is a stopping point for all major road transport operators licensed for this region. Harbour. The port of Mossel Bay is the smallest commercial harbour on the South African coast. It caters mostly for the oil industry, and for a small fishing fleet, and is owned and managed by the Transnet National Ports Authority, which falls directly under South Africa's Department of Public Enterprises. The depth of the entrance channel is 8 meters, while the maximum permissible draft inside the harbour is 6.5 meters. Pilotage is compulsory from a point 2 nautical miles northeast of Cape St Blaize. Bunkering is available on the jetty and at quays 2, 3, and 5. Quay 4 can accommodate vessels of up to 130 meters, with a draft of 6.5 meters. A ship repair slipway can accommodate vessels of up to 200 tons. Ship chandler and stevedore services are available, as are diving services for hull cleaning, underwater inspection, salvage, etc. The harbour has 2 offshore mooring buoys inside port limits, a catenary buoy mooring that caters for ships of up to 32,000 DWT, and a single-point mooring marine tanker terminal that's connected to 3 hoses for the export of products from Petros's gas-to-fuel refinery, which is situated inland and directly west of Mossel Bay. The SPM is located off Vorbei in an open, unsheltered roadstead in about 21 meters of water. During the 2008-09 financial year, Mossel Bay served 1,567 vessels with a combined gross tonnage of 3,317,364 GT, and handled a total of 2,014,185 tons of cargo. 773,267 tons of cargo was landed, and 1,240,918 T was shipped. 15,000 people worked on the Synthol and AMP refinery plant in Mossel Bay from 1998 to 2002 from all over the world, changing the landscape of the perception of South Africa. Garden Route and AMP, giving major credence to South Africa and AMP multi-relations to the world. Rail. Mossel Bay is connected to the National Rail Network via a branch line to George. The line celebrated its centenary on the 25th of September 2007. Archaeology. Pinnacle Point Caves. According to the presently accepted theory of the recent African origin of modern humans, all people alive today evolved from a core population of about 600 individuals who lived on the African continent between 100,000 and 200,000 years ago. The Mossel Bay Archaeology Project has shown that the southern Cape Coast was most probably the point where modern behavior first emerged about 164,000 years ago. The Mossel Bay Archaeology Project was created to examine the ancient middens in the Pinnacle Point Caves, most of which lie about 12 kilometers east of Cape St Blaize. The discovery was made during routine archaeological surveys conducted prior to the development of the Pinnacle Point Beach and Golf Resort, and excavations began in the year 2000 under the leadership of Professor Curtis Marion and by Dr. Peter Nilsson of the Iziko South African Museum. The scientific team includes researchers from South Africa, Australia, as well as Israel and France. Funding for the project was obtained from the National Science Foundation, the Hayes Family Trust, the Iziko South African Museum, the University of Cape Town, and the Diaz Museum in Mossel Bay. The project focuses on a series of caves cut into the sea-facing cliffs on the southern boundary of the Pinnacle Point Beach and Golf Resort, which were occupied between 170,000 and 40,000 years ago by Middle Stone Age people. The excavations have revealed the earliest evidence for the systematic exploitation of marine resources such as shellfish, the earliest evidence for the use of dyes in cymboling, the use of advanced bladelet technology, and the earliest evidence for the use of heat treatment in the manufacture of stone tools. The significance of the finds is increased by the presence of fossilized carbon isotopes in the dripstone formations hanging from the roofs of the caves, which contain a record of the composition of the water that seeped into the caves over a period beginning about 400,000 years ago. As part of the work, the scientists on the Bay Archaeology Project are studying this evidence in order to create a portrait of the climate of the area over the period 400,000 to 30,000 years ago, so as to be able to correlate the evidence of human behavior on the floor of the caves with climate patterns, and thus learn how man has adapted to climate change over the ages. The findings of the Mossel Bay Archaeology Project have been brought to school children in the Western Cape Province through the work of the SACP4 Education Project. which offers field trips to the Diaz Museum complex and its mock archaeology dig. Professor Marion delivered the opening address to the 44th Nobel Conference at the Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota, on the 7th of October 2008. His lecture, "The African Evidence for the Origins of Modern Human Behavior," explained his thesis that the climate, vegetation and geography of the Mossel Bay area provided perfect living conditions for the core population of about 600 individuals who were the progenitors of modern humankind. Cape St Blaize Cave. The Cape St Blaize Cave is situated directly under the Cape St Blaize Lighthouse, is the site of one of South Africa's oldest archaeological excavations. It was first excavated in 1888 by George Leith, then by T. Rupert Jones in 1899, and by A. J. H. Goodwin in the 1920s. Goodwin is said to have described the Middle Stone Age Mossel Bay industry from his findings at Cape St Blaize. The cave has revealed deposits dating from about 200,000 years ago to the pre-colonial period, during which time middens were laid down by herders of the Sanakokon people. It is protected by Heritage Western Cape as a provincial heritage site. Rock art. The mountains to the north of Mossel Bay are an important repository of South African rock art. This art, which is now associated with shamanistic practices, was created by the San people, and specimens may date back as far as 27,000 years. The rock art sites surrounding Mossel Bay are generally located on private land, and are therefore only accessible to the public in the company of registered guides, who will ensure that the integrity of the pieces remains intact. Attractions. Mossel Bay has been a beach holiday destination for South Africans for more than a century, a situation that received a particular boost after the Afrikaans style and culture of vereniging bought the farm Hartenbosch in the 1930s, and began developing it as a holiday resort for its members. The major attractions were then, and still are, the dry, warm and stable weather, and the Indian Ocean and its beaches. However, with good roads, modern vehicles and the development of inland accommodation, the broader environment of the area is now vital to the tourism economy. In addition, the history of the town and its cultural attractions are important drawcards. Mossel Bay is situated exactly halfway between Cape Town and Port Elizabeth, and is therefore a popular stopping-off and resting point on the itineraries of international visitors to the Western and Eastern Cape Provinces. The Bartholomew Diaz Museum Complex is the largest of the museums in Mossel Bay. Originally designed to celebrate the arrival of Bartholomew Diaz and his crew on the 3rd of February 1488, and to protect the post office tree, the complex now offers a wider look at the history of Mossel Bay from environmental, archaeological, and cultural perspectives. Cape St Blaize Lighthouse was built 1864 to designs by the colonial engineer R. Robinson. The original light was stationary, but in 1897 a revolving clockwork light, which required winding every 3 hours, was fitted. This was used until the late 1970s. The light is now fully automated. Mossel Bay is also home to the Mossel Bay Yacht and Boat Club. Coats of arms. Municipality. The original arms, designed by W. H. Armstrong and AMPCO, were assumed on the 6th of October 1905. The shield was quoted as follows: 1. The figure of justice on a red background. 2. A golden fleece on a blue background. 3. Interlaced golden fish on a blue background. 4. The figure of Neptune on a sky blue background. Municipality. In 1992, after the Bureau of Heraldry had refused to register the existing arms because they were heraldically defective, the council accepted a new design, prepared by the Bureau. The new arms were registered at the Bureau on the 6th of March 1992. basaltire argent and azure in chief, a balance resting on the point of a sword, erect, azure, dexter 3 fitting interlaced in annulet or sinister, a golden fleece, and in base, on a base wavy azure charged with a bar wavy argent, a Portuguese caravel, sails set, proper. In layman's terms, the shield was divided in 4x2 diagonal lines, the upper section displaying of blue balance and a sword on a silver background, the left section 3 interlaced golden fish on a blue background, the right section a golden fleece on a blue background, and at the bottom a Portuguese caravel on a stylized blue and white sea. The crest was a lighthouse, and the motto Jure e Justitia Valamus, municipality. A new coat of arms was registered at the Bureau on the 20th of February 1998. Basaltire, in base grady, azure nor in chief 2 whales niant in pale, and in base a first noe of 2 carew gable houses, argent. The doors azure, the lower edge wavy, dexter and alovert flowered gules and sinister, a 15th century Portuguese caravel proper. The sail charged with a cross patty, gules. In layman's terms, the shield is divided in 4x2 diagonal lines, the lower parts of which are stepped, the upper section displaying 2 silver whales on a blue background, the left section an aloe plant on a golden background, the right section a Portuguese caravel on a golden background, and the bottom section 2 stylized carew gable houses in silver against a blue background. The crest is a lighthouse issuing from a black mural crown. The motto is, again, Jure e Justitia Valamus.